In the heart of a tropical lowland, surrounded by dense jungle and mangrove swamps, lay a small, almost forgotten village. Its homes were simple, roofs made of palm leaves, walls of clay, and time seemed to flow slowly there, dissolving into the heat and the smells of damp earth and rotting foliage. The locals had long become used to seclusion. They lived in harmony with nature, could hear silence and distinguish even its slightest shifts. Mornings began with birdsong, and nights fell to the rhythmic chorus of insects and distant animal cries. It seemed nothing could disturb this fragile balance. That day, the sun rose as usual, slowly, spilling its warmth across wet leaves and wooden platforms. People stepped out of their homes, children ran to the river, women tended to their yards, men headed to the fields. Everything felt normal and calm. But by noon, something had changed. Not sharply, not suddenly, but a faint unease began to settle in. The air seemed to hold a different scent, heavy, pungent, with a hint of danger. The dogs started behaving oddly. One after another, they retreated into the shade, tails tucked, no longer barking. The birds, usually noisy and busy, suddenly fell silent, and a strange, oppressive stillness took hold of the village. At first, no one thought much of it. Sometimes, they believed, the jungle simply quieted. But the village elder's heart skipped a beat when he saw a chicken abandon its food and flutter up to a rooftop. He showed no reaction, but he didn't return indoors. He stayed at the village square, eyes fixed on the northern edge of the jungle. That was when it first appeared, a sound, a rustle, and then the slow, deliberate movement of something large through the underbrush. The snake was enormous, at least 4 meters long, with thick, scaly coils and a narrow, slightly lifted head. Its movements were slow, graceful, and strangely purposeful. It didn't swerve or hesitate, didn't hug the outskirts as wild animals usually do when sensing humans. No, it moved straight toward the center, where a few stalls stood and dried fruit hung from strings. The villagers recoiled in fear. Some shut their doors, others hid behind their huts. But the snake didn't react. It continued forward, ignoring everyone, until it reached the square. There, it coiled itself, raised its head as if surveying the place, and remained motionless. Its breathing was steady, almost imperceptible. Time seemed to freeze. Not a sound, not a movement broke the symmetry of the moment. People watched from hiding, tense, ready to scream or run. But the snake did nothing. No attack. No retreat. It simply was. This baffled everyone. Fear slowly gave way to confusion. What was it doing here? Why didn't it leave? Why this place? No one had answers. The elder quietly stepped back, thoughts racing. He recalled stories of animals approaching humans when they had nowhere else to go. In those tales, snakes symbolized warnings, fate, sometimes sorrow. He didn't know if the creature before him was merely a lost python or something more. But deep down, he felt this was no accident. Not savagery. A message. And as clouds began to gather and a distant murmur drifted in from the swamps, the snake remained still, waiting. No one yet knew this was the beginning of the strangest story the village had ever seen. Several hours passed, but the situation remained unchanged. The snake still lay in the square, showing neither aggression nor restlessness. From time to time, it slowly turned its head, as if listening to something beyond human perception. The silence around it grew heavier, like a thickening fog. Some villagers whispered anxiously, suspecting the creature might be sick or dangerously unpredictable. Yet the fear did not erupt into panic. It merely settled over everything, slow and suffocating. People stayed hidden, watching from behind curtains and wall cracks. The bright sunlight had faded into a dim haze. A cool wind drifted in from the nearby swamps, an unusual presence in this typically hot place. The dogs hadn't moved for hours, and the birds perched high in the trees seemed to hold their breath. The world had quieted down completely, every movement subdued under a strange tension. At the center of it all lay the snake, not just a creature now, but a silent question. Something more than fear surrounded it, anticipation. Yet no one could explain what they were waiting for. Among all the observers, one child stood out, an 8-year-old boy named Kyo. He had been born in the village and had always been different from the other children. Quiet, thoughtful, often lost in watching insects or tracing the flight of birds, Kyo had a deep connection to nature. He could sit for hours beneath a tree, observing ants, leaves, or the smallest movements in the dirt. His awareness of details and his calm presence made him unique. That day, he too hid with the others, but unlike the adults, he wasn't scared. In his eyes was something else, a focused curiosity, almost like recognition. He peeked from behind a wall, his gaze locked onto the snake. For a long time, he studied the creature's posture, its body, and the angle of its head. Then he noticed something no adult had seen. It was barely visible at first. Near the snake's tail lay a small, dark shape, motionless except for a faint twitch every now and then. At first glance, it might have been part of the ground or a fallen branch. But it moved. Just barely. As if something alive was struggling to breathe or calling out silently from beneath leaves. Kyo squinted, focusing, until the realization hit him. It was another snake, a tiny one, likely a baby. It didn't crawl or twist, just trembled faintly, exhausted or injured. And in that moment, everything made sense. The large snake hadn't come looking for prey. She hadn't come to threaten. She had come because she had no other option. She brought her baby to the only place she hoped help might exist, among humans. She didn't trust them, but she had no choice. Kyo didn't understand this with logic, he felt it. The mute cry for help echoed within him. Slowly, carefully, he stepped out from his hiding place. The villagers gasped. Someone shouted after him, but he didn't listen. He kept walking, his eyes on the fragile little shape beside the huge serpent. He stopped a few feet away. The snake raised her head, but did not strike. Her gaze met his, not with malice, but with fatigue and perhaps hope. Kyo crouched down, studying the baby snake. Then, without turning, he raised his arm and motioned toward the adults. A clear signal, come closer. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the villagers emerged. Someone ran to fetch the elder. Another rushed to bring water. And something changed in the air. The heavy veil of fear lifted just enough to let compassion in. The snake had not come to harm. She had come to ask. And Kyo had heard her first. The people who were slowly approaching the boy still couldn't fully believe what they were seeing. Their eyes reflected a mix of fear, doubt, and a stirring sense of something greater than mere survival instinct. For many of them, a snake was still a symbol of danger, a threat, an ancient fear. But at that moment, when they saw a child calmly sitting just a few steps away from the huge creature, their understanding began to crack. The silent scene unfolding before their eyes seemed surreal, almost sacred. The snake was no longer perceived as an enemy. In its stillness and gaze, something else was present: exhaustion, expectation, and perhaps a final hope. The village elder came closest. His steps were slow but steady. He had lived a long life, had seen much, and understood that some situations required not force, but sensitivity. Looking closely at what Kyo had noticed, he immediately understood. It was an offspring, and it was on the brink. Barely alive, it only twitched slightly now and then, as if silently struggling between life and death. The elder quietly stepped back and gestured for warm water and cloth to be brought. The people obeyed. They were still cautious, but no longer fearful. Some exchanged glances, someone held back tears, unable to explain why their hearts clenched at the mere sight of the snake and her baby. When the water arrived, the elder soaked the cloth and carefully crawled closer to the offspring. The snake didn't even flinch. She watched without blinking, and in her eyes was something words could not express: gratitude. Kyo remained nearby, his presence seeming to calm everyone. He was a bridge between two worlds, human and natural. The elder gently touched the tiny body, trying not to cause harm, hoping that warmth and moisture would help revive the fragile creature. Minutes passed before any real change occurred. The baby opened its eyes, barely lifted its head. Its breathing deepened, and its body became less limp. The snake slowly moved closer, curling around her baby as if shielding it from the world. But she didn't take him away, no. She stayed. It was a gesture of trust. She showed that her mission wasn't just to bring, but to remain until the end. People began whispering, but no longer with anxiety, with reverence. Some believed it was a test. Others thought it was a sign. Even the most skeptical understood. They had witnessed something meaningful, something real, something capable of shifting their views. One of the young men brought a basket lined with grass. He silently placed it on the ground next to Kyo. The boy looked at the elder. The elder nodded. With the utmost care, the baby snake was placed inside the basket. The large snake moved closer and touched its head, as if making sure all was well. And in that moment, as everyone held their breath, the snake looked at the people. Long and deep. As if saying goodbye, not with sadness, but with peace. Then, slowly and almost silently, she turned and slithered away, majestically, without rush, as if knowing her mission was complete. The basket was taken into the elder's house. There, conditions were created for the baby to recover. People came to observe, not with curiosity, but with respect. They didn't try to interfere or speak loudly. With each day, the baby grew stronger, and in the village, as strange as it might sound, they began to believe none of this was an accident. The snake, who had come to them in desperation, hadn't just left her child, she had left them a lesson. A reminder that even in the most feared creatures, there can be love, care, and bravery. This understanding took root deeply in the hearts of the people, and even those who once raised sticks at the sight of a snake now simply stepped aside in reverence. Several days had passed since the snake disappeared into the depths of the forest, leaving her offspring in the care of the people. In the village, quiet amazement still lingered, slowly transforming into conscious respect. The event, which had become central to the villagers' lives, no longer seemed like a frightening incident or a curious coincidence. It had become a personal story for each of them. They didn't just remember what happened, they returned to it in their thoughts, again and again, as to an important lesson, as to a sign that awakened something long forgotten. The snake's departure became a symbolic act. She left behind not just her offspring, but a sense of responsibility that she had passed on to humans. No aggression followed her. Nature did not retaliate. Everything was remarkably peaceful. This behavior sparked internal changes, not sudden, not instant, but lasting. Those who once viewed anything slithering with disdain and fear began to wonder, how distorted had their perception been? After all, the snake, the embodiment of danger, had proven to be the embodiment of maternal love and trust. At the elder's home, caring for the offspring became a ritual. It was no longer a duty, it became a symbol of unity with nature. The women carefully moistened herbs to keep the air humid, the men brought small frogs and insects for food, and the teenagers took turns watching over the basket, monitoring temperature and silence. The most amazing thing was how quickly people learned to understand the little snake's signals. She didn't hiss or show aggression, only slight body movements or a turn of the head served as her language. Thus, day by day, an invisible but strong connection formed between the creature and the people. One morning, the basket was found empty. The little snake was gone. There were no signs of struggle, no damage, just a faint trail in the dust leading outside. No one was afraid or saddened. Everyone understood, she had gone where she belonged. Not because the people were bad or unworthy, but because the time had come. Everyone knew this was the closing of a chapter, not the end. This story became a part of the village, its memory, its inner voice. The elder gathered everyone and didn't give a long speech. He simply reminded them, we were chosen, and we did not fail. Since then, much had changed. People no longer went into the forest with guns and torches. First out of caution, and then, out of principle. They began to care for the meadows, harvesting herbs by hand so as not to destroy nests, leaving bowls of water at the edge of the village on hot days. Even the children no longer feared crawling creatures. They didn't run from lizards or throw stones at snakes. Kyo, a bit older now, often walked deep into the grove, sat on an old fallen pine, and stayed silent for a long time. He waited. Not for a return, not for a miracle. He waited for an answer, an inner one, a natural one, the kind that comes without words but stays forever. A year later, stories began to circulate in the village. Someone had seen a large snake on the hill. Someone heard strange rustling in the fields at night. No one was afraid, no one worried. These rumors became like legends, kind tales that now lived in the village. And even if it wasn't the same snake, everyone wanted to believe she had returned, not to ask, not to plead, but simply to look. To make sure everything was all right. To see that her choice had not been in vain. Thus, a story that began in fear ended in growth. The people changed, not under pressure, not by force, but because they felt something. That feeling remained with them forever. And everyone born in that village after would hear the story of the snake who came not to attack, but to ask, not to hiss, but to be silent, not to take, but to leave. And no one, even years later, forgot that one day a child noticed something that changed everyone.